Welcome, folks, to another edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider. The new year is here, as we said in the last episode, and the Wolverines underway in Big Ten basketball play. It has resumed, and boy, they are off to a great start. If I had told you when the season began that the Wolverines would go on the road in the Kohl Center, and they would go on the road in Pauley Pavilion, and they would get wins in both, what would you say? Would you think that I was full of crap? Well, I'm not, because that's what the Wolverines have done. Joining me to break all of that down like he does every single week, talking hoops, his alma mater, an All-American and my guy. I call him Timmy Mack. Tim McCormick, getting it done as an All-American at the University of Michigan, as an NBA player for 10 years, and now is one of the best basketball commentators in the land. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I love this time of year. You know how much I like college football, but now it's college basketball all the time. And this team has been so much fun to watch. They do a lot of really unique things. Dusty May has exceeded any expectation anybody could have. And that UCLA win really impressed me a lot. I mean, this is one of the truly elite coaches on the defensive end. We caused him to lose his mind. and I had a couple of his games when he was at Cincinnati. And this is a guy that really takes defense as his lifeblood. He loves defense. And for Michigan to score 94 points in his building, when they even had some long segments where they struggled a little bit, I think it was huge for Michigan to have almost a week of bonding out in California to be able to spend time together at dinner and do some team building activities and to practice at iconic sites. It really is what this team needed. And I think the next 3 games they should be favored. If they take care of it, which they should, you're looking at a 7-0 start, and you just have to say that they're the favorite right now. I guess I would put Illinois up there. I want to watch Michigan State and Washington tonight. What's that about? How do I pick the Penn State Notre Dame game over college basketball? That's a tough call. I'm glad we can record him, Sam.
Yeah, I hear you. Tim, you remember, man, it seems like ages ago, I was asking you, Tim, what do you make of Vlad Goldin not being able to finish? Can you explain that? He's around the rim. He's 7 feet. He's 250 some odd pounds. How can this guy not finish around the rim? To go from that a couple of months ago to this guy going beast mode, just punishing guys around the rim like he has been, and certainly like he was at an elite level against UCLA, to the point where, like you said, he made Mick Cronin lose his mind. I mean, Tyler Bilodeau, we talked about Bilodeau. We talked about this matchup in the last podcast. I said I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. Bilodeau is, their best front court player. This is not really an ideal matchup for him. He's given up a lot of size, and you saw it in this matchup. It's not ideal. And man, Vlad was going right through him in this matchup, Tim, like you want him to do. He's a smaller man, Vlad. Treat him like a smaller man, and that's exactly what Vlad did in this game.
Yeah, and Bilodeau is a good player. He really is. I think that the quickest way a coach can lose one of his big men is to leave him out there in a matchup that he just can't handle. I remember my freshman year, Purdue had a guy named Russell Cross, and for whatever reason, I couldn't cover him. He was really big, he was strong, he was quick. I just kept thinking, how about sending a double team? Help me out a little bit here. And Mick Cronin should have done that because that was a severe mismatch. And to your point, Sam, it was probably about 6 weeks ago. And we talked a lot about the fact that Vlad was struggling to catch the ball, which is surprising because his hands are great. And he was missing layups. He was tentative. He was unsure of the offense. It was really, really hard to figure. And I did talk to Dusty May about it, and he said that the key thing is, and he said, I've seen Vlad play. He's going to be great. He kept bringing the ball down, and he had never really done that before. One of the strengths of Vlad is that he catches everything, and he keeps the ball up, and he can dunk on anybody at any time. He's got big, massive hands. And so once Dusty told him to stop bringing the ball down, his whole game changed. And Sam, as I watched the Big Ten evolve this year, I think that the greatest performance of any player in the Big Ten so far was Vlad Goldin against UCLA.
Yeah, I thought the funniest, the most poignant, the most poignant moment in the game almost was Vlad. He gets a dunk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's in the first half of the game, and he's gassed.
Get me out.
And he's like, get me out. And he's raising his head to get him out the game. And it's at this point, I believe it was Billy though, he flops. And Vlad goes right to it, and he dunks again.
Yeah.
and he dunks again. And it's like, I think that's the one that might have been the one that broke Mick Cronin, because he's, this is what he talks about. He calls Bilodeau out in the press conference, and he's like, "Oh man, he just got dunked on. Bilodeau just gets dunked on. I mean, if it's me, I just, I foul the guy or something. I just foul him. I mean, I wouldn't just let a guy just dunk on me." I was like, first of all, why are you calling a guy out in the press conference like that? I've seen coaches use press conferences as tools for accountability, but I mean, man, this is rubbing salt in the wound. And he was calling his coaches out. He was calling. I mean, everyone is doing something wrong except Mick Cronin, according to Mick Cronin. At least that's how that press conference went, Tim. I don't know what you thought of that whole. We'll come around to Mick Cronin a little bit later. But Vlad was a man possessed in the first half of that game. But as the game goes on, so Vlad's doing his thing. Danny Wolf is doing his thing, just like we saw in the USC game. And let's not gloss over the USC game because, boy, Tim, they come out in that game bombing away. I think in the first half of that game, it's a three-point assault. They had 13 baskets in the first half of that game, 10 of which were threes. They were on fire in that contest. And then in the second half of that game, now it's a basket assault where it's Danny Wolf really kind of leading the barrage, attacking the basket. They had so many guys in double figures. It was a balanced attack, but it was really the stat sheet that led the way with Danny Wolf. He had, I think 21 points. It was a double-double. He had 7 assists. He had 6 blocks. He was all over the place. And it was one of those deals where coming out of it, everyone's talking about Danny Wolf again. And in the broadcast, the UCLA broadcast, Jalen Rose, one of your fellow former Michigan players, said, Danny Wolf is jokerish.
Come on, Sam.
I thought about you, Tim. So I said, Tim, now you started saying Cooper Flagg. Your guy Jalen went a level beyond you in saying he's jokerish. So what do you think about that, Tim McCormick?
So I made you promise that you were not going to say that Tim said that Wolf is the next Cooper Flagg or anything like that. That's not what I was saying. They do some of the same things. And I think that what Jalen was saying is that they're big guys that can pass the ball. And I don't take it any further than that. So I am so thoroughly enjoying watching Danny Wolf play. Even the turnovers, they are so entertaining. And I was told as a big man to never leave the paint. If you ask me my number one skill as a basketball player, I would have said I'm a great 17-foot jump shooter. I never took one 17-foot jump shot in my entire college career. And so to see Danny Wolf handling the ball, between his legs, behind his back, spinning. Like when I was a kid, I used to love Bugs Bunny, right? I mean, I think everybody did. And the Tasmanian Devil, remember the character in the cartoon, Looney Tunes, that he was like a ball of energy, just knocking things around and spinning. And like, that's what Danny Wolf is playing like. And he is having so much fun. And remember, when he was at Yale, he exploded with 28 points in the NCAA tournament when they knocked off Auburn. But the rest of his career, he was in the paint. He was with his back to the basket. And so I love watching what he's doing. He's experimenting. He's trying new stuff. And along the way, man, he's throwing some passes that I've never seen a big guy throw before like that. Like he's something else. And I don't want him to get conservative and worry about turning the ball. I want him to be a playmaker. Just go out there, because I think his teammates get energized by his play.
This was a point a few shows ago that I sort of leaned into. I said, hey, I'm not going to get bent out of shape about the turnovers, because I feel like he's testing the limits of what he can do against this competition, because he hasn't been put in this position. And it's like, wait a minute. Oh, I can do this against these guys. And I could do this against these guys, and I could do this against and the higher level of higher caliber of opponent he plays, he's seeing, he can do it against these guys too. And he just keeps testing himself and raising the level of performance. So I'm willing to let him stretch to see what he can do. But I do have to ask you, Tim, the deeper they go, and if the turnover numbers persist, are we okay with the turnover numbers being at around this level, 16, 17 per game? Are we just going to say that because we play through the bigs this much, Danny and Vlad this much, are we just going to say, hey, you know what? We got to expect or accept that they're going to just be this number of turnovers?
There are bumpy roads ahead. There's going to be a couple of conversations that we have where we talk about the fact that, okay, things have to tighten up a little bit. But right now they're having so much fun and they're so efficient on offense. What we're basically looking at is that Michigan has 1.5 or 2 turnovers per half. If you look at it that way in an 80-85 possession game, it doesn't seem like a huge number. I'm a little bit more concerned about the type of turnovers. Like when Danny Wolf tries to lob it and he throws it 8 feet above Vlad's head and hands, and the ball goes out of bounds. That doesn't bother me that much. That's like a missed shot. It's the live ball turnovers that can really cause problems. And it seems like when Michigan is having a problem with a run that the other team is making, that it's the really careless turnovers. I'm seeing a trend that can be corrected though. And when there was 15 minutes to go in the half against UCLA, and Michigan got up by 15. And I wrote down on my notes, I said, here comes a run, because we saw it against Wake. We saw it against Arkansas. We saw it against Oklahoma. When Michigan gets up by 15 to 18 points, it seems like they kind of get away from their serious brand of basketball.
That's an interesting observation. I guess I hadn't noticed that. But what I have noticed is that run does come, and one of the ways in which I think they can bounce back or snap back into some mode of seriousness, or when they need to be more careful, when they need to get into a mode of hey, we gotta get into be a little more deliberate on offense. You remember I talked about having your point guard dictate, facilitate, calm the team down, run some offense. I want to play through Tre. This was going back to the conversation we had during the Arkansas and Oklahoma breakdowns. And it was at the end of the Oklahoma game where Tre got waved off. Now, he made a bad decision in jacking the three when he should have attacked the basket. But my point was the same, that, for a team that they get up and down, and, there's, it's positionless basketball a lot of the times, and they want to shoot in the first 10 seconds of the clock and all of that. There are times where they're going to need someone to settle things down. There are times when they are going to need someone to take care of the basketball and to get them into some good offense. Mm-hmm. And I think Tre Donaldson is that guy. And so they were up 18 in the first half of this game. It's chopped to 10. They come out in the second half of this game, and suddenly, UCLA is up 4 or 5. Danny Wolf is on the bench with 4 fouls. Vlad is suddenly in foul trouble. And almost because there's no choice, Tre Donaldson takes over. And he scores or assists on 12 straight points. And Michigan takes control of the game, and they never look back. He does exactly what I was talking about some games ago when they lost control of it. When the other team goes on a run and you need to snap back and you need your point guard to take control of the game, and it didn't happen in those games. It happened in this game, Tim. And this is exactly the kind of role definition that I wanted to see, and we saw it in this game. And it was extremely effective in a timely moment in this contest, and it was great to see.
Sam, it was the first time this season that I felt like, wow, Tre Donaldson is going to be an all Big Ten player this year. And the reason I felt that is because he showed that he's got a whole different gear. Like, there have been a lot of times that I've wanted him to elevate his production, be more aggressive, try to get to the rim. And he seems really comfortable. Like, whatever the team needs, I will do. He's reliable. He's dependable. And at Auburn, he shared the point guard spot. So he's never really been the alpha dog, like, get out of my way, I'm going to get my points. A lot of point guards are arrogant, and they want to make sure they're in charge and they're getting their numbers. He's not that guy. And so he's taking over a new offense, tough position, all kinds of new teammates everywhere. Chemistry is going to take time. And he wanted to be one less distraction that anybody has to worry about. All of a sudden against UCLA, you had foul trouble, you had a run going. Tre was brilliant. And he, he knocked down threes, he moved the ball, he had assists. it was really awe-inspiring to me. And I think that he probably learned some things that he'll be able to use in the future. That was pretty incredible what he did.
Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those things where once you do something like that, it kind of, says something to his teammates where it's like, okay, all right, Tre. Yeah, that now you get that deference. You get that deference where you can, it's like, give me the ball. In those moments where you need to take control, there's not going to be any question anymore. When you're looking for that role definition, like you say, you got to get to know one another, who can do what and when, or who should do what in those moments. Now that he's done it on the road, hostile environment, really good opponent, he's proven he should have that kind of trust from his teammates. I think this was absolutely huge because, like, he bangs the three. He assists on the three to Will Cheddar. He comes down and bangs another three, assists on the three to Nimari Burnett. Now they have the lead. Because that was a huge run. I mean, UCLA had seized momentum in this game, and suddenly Michigan grabs it right back. And now they got the game. They grabbed it back, and they never relinquished it again. I mean, that was crucial. It was, man, that's great stuff. That's great stuff from Tre Donaldson.
Yeah, and what I also felt is that right now, who is Michigan's go-to guy? Who, like, if you have to have a bucket, who do you go to? I don't know. And guess what? Whoever they're playing, they don't know either, because you can go inside, and I think the next gear that Michigan's going to have in their offense is old school post-ups with Vlad and Danny, because both of them have shown they can pass. And I do think that Vlad has learned a lot of basketball from playing against Danny Wolf in practice every day. Like, he's going to be a good passer. And I think that we're seeing more of the Charles Barkley approach, where you catch the ball a couple feet off the block and you back your way in, and you're just kind of watching to see where the double's coming from. That's going to be really effective. You've got the ability to have Tre Donaldson knocking down threes and making big plays. And we haven't even really talked in this podcast today about Nimari Burnett. And I told you last week that I think he's positioned to get a lot of open shots, playing the best ball of his career right now. I don't know what Roddy Gale's injury is, but he's got the same capability at times to be kind of like that off score, that number 3 or 4 guy that's just going to get open shots because he's surrounded by good players. They are very well set up right now, Sam.
Yeah, you called it out. We talked about it in before the season started, how miscast he was on last year's team, because out of necessity, due to injury, like he had to be a primary ball handler, but it just took him so far out of his game and what he's best at. And man, with what they have, because he doesn't have to do that this year and he can play his game, it just allows him to really blossom. He is such a good shooter, such a high IQ player. I mean, you think about how it allows him to, I mean, he's able to hit the glass. He gets out and he gets into guys on the defensive end of the floor as well. You're seeing the high IQ basketball player that he is not be distracted by doing something that's outside really of the best part of his skill set, which is so great to see, taking advantage of the versatile skill set they have around this roster. Truly is a pleasure to watch. Nimari, and this entire roster. I don't know what Roddy Gale's injury is either, but that's the beauty of this roster. You can lose a guy, like Roddy from the lineup, and you got enough talent elsewhere on the roster that other guys can step in and fill in the gap. Kind of like the other team you cover, the Pistons. Jaden Ivey goes out, and you got other guys on the roster that are talented enough to fill in, whether it's Tobias Harris can step up, he can fill in some points, or Tim Hardaway Jr. can step in and fill in some point. You got the same kind of versatility on this roster as well.
When you look at the job that Dusty May did building this roster, I have no idea how he was able to pull this off, because how would you have ever been able to see that Danny Wolf, as a back-to-the-basket player at Yale, could thrive and handle the ball like he does and make moves and throw Magic Johnson passes? And stop, Sam, I'm not saying he's Magic Johnson.
I hear you.
I hear you. But how did he see that? And, with Reuben Jones, most coaches would say, well, he's not really a big scorer. We need more points. No, you need a stopper. You need somebody that can play that role. And so I'm also seeing that an 8-man rotation is emerging. And so it's going to be hard for those freshman guards to get a lot of minutes. But the bench is a little bit of a concern. Mm-hmm. And I'm also, I'm worried about backup point guard. If you have a game where maybe Tre Donaldson gets dinged up a bit, he gets in foul trouble, there's a big drop off when he sits down.
There is, man. There is. I'm thinking about the USC game, and I think I get the sequences mixed up between USC and UCLA, but I think it was the USC game where he went to LJ side, and LJ was trying to bring the ball up court, and he gets ripped, and it leads to a layup, and man, Dusty turns right around and tells Tre to get up and get in the game, because he was trying to steal some minutes. And then it's like, man, he puts Tre right back in the game, because he's like, I need you right back out there, kind of deal. So
how about Dusty May and the way he handles Danny Wolf? There's such a huge disparity between the way Mick Cronin does it and Dusty May does. There were 2 turnovers in a row that Danny Wolf had, and it was almost like Dusty May gave him a coaching hug to say, I love you, you're okay, don't worry about it, it's all right, keep making plays. That was so encouraging to see, because I'm telling you, when recruits across the country are watching these games, that's what they're looking for. They do not want coaches to embarrass them and call them out. Players today are sensitive. They're more sensitive because of social media, and mental wellness is at the forefront. And we've taught ball players how they want to be treated. And Dusty May is a wizard at that.
Yeah, man. I'm not above holding guys accountable, or even holding guys accountable publicly. Like I said, I think that there is room to use public accountability as a tool to a point. But I thought that Mick Cronin was ridiculous. I thought that it was gratuitous. I thought it was self-serving. I thought it was way out of line, man. I'm the furthest thing from a UCLA fan or guy, but I thought what he did to those guys was below board. I just don't know of any team sport where the loss is all on the players or all on the coaches, where all the responsibility for the loss falls on the players, or all the responsibility for the loss falls on the coaches. To me, they all share some of the blame. Most of it might fall on the players in some instances, or most of it might fall on the coaches in some instances, but they never share all of it, or they never hold all of it. And in this instance, some of the stuff he said, I'm listening to the press conference, Tim. Yeah, man, he was talking about guys going under screens on Tre Donaldson. He was right. They were going under screens on Tre Donaldson. He did okay. Well, sit him down, Mick. I mean, guys are blowing assignments. Sit him down. Okay, Bilodeau was getting beasted by Vlad Goldin. It was a bad matchup. Maybe you need to send a double or something. But to me, if guys are busting assignments, if it's not an epidemic where guys are busting assignments all season long, maybe there's something wrong with your scout from this game that was too complex, coach. If the guys are busting the scout, maybe there's something wrong with the scout. Maybe you gave them too much. Maybe you need to simplify. How about that? You know, you might think your scout is great, but if they can't execute it, maybe the scout is bad.
Yeah, all good points. I think it was a massive error and a miscalculation on his part. I heard the same words: delusional, soft, lacking toughness. I think it was a cry for help from an emotional guy. I also thought that a lot of his words were not based on Michigan because he had to be super impressed with what he saw from Michigan. I think that his comments were based on the Nebraska loss in Lincoln. In that game, Nebraska outworked and out-toughed UCLA. And I think that after that game, that Mick Cronin felt that, but because the Michigan game was coming up, he didn't think it was the right time to bring it up. I don't like his grinded out half-court system. And I think his program is at a crossroads because UCLA should be one of the most coveted jobs in all of college. And you can attract 5-star above the rim athletes, and his system doesn't fit there. Like his system would work great at Cincinnati because you can get your kind of guys, but at UCLA, you're trying to turn NBA caliber athletes into grinded out defensive players. If I'm a recruit, I'm questioning him. If I'm a parent, I'm upset. If I'm a media member, they were trying to bail him out, saying they were trying to say, Coach, do you really think this or last night I broadcast the Dayton game at UMass. And one of my favorite coaches is Frank Martin. He was at Kansas State. He was at South Carolina. And he said something really interesting to me. He said, Tim, I don't yell at my players anymore. I'm supportive. I encourage them. I talk about growth and improvement because what I've learned is with NIL and with the transfer portal, if I don't take that approach, they're going to leave. And that's what Mick Cronin, he's going to see a mass exodus at the end of this season. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah, that's the risk you run. Maybe he knows something we don't, you know, and thinking that he can do that and that those guys will stick with him. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I was surprised that he talked that way because I was like, man, I was wondering, was the record different? Had this team lost 5 or 6 games in a row and I missed it? Because he was talking like this team was circling the drain. Yeah. And lo and behold, they got 3 losses. It's like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, they've beaten Oregon and Washington and Arizona and Gonzaga. They lost by 2 to North Carolina. This is a good team with a lot of potential. And before this last week, most people that were asked said that I think that UCLA is the favorite in the Big Ten. So
right, but he has 500 wins. Yeah. He said by himself,
and he's tough. And he shows up every day.
He shows up. He's the only one.
Yeah,
he's the only one. He's got 500 wins.
So Sam, tonight, are you watching the football game or are you watching Washington and Michigan State.
I'm gonna watch mostly the football game, but I'll peek over at Washington and Michigan State just to catch a little bit of that in the upcoming opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be watching mostly the football game for sure. To see if James Franklin can and Drew. I mean, to me, they're the hype squad. Yeah, they've been hyped up talking about James Franklin and Drew Aller, hyped up to be one of the best coaches and one of the best quarterbacks in the land, and I just don't think that they've lived up to that hype. If they do live up to it, they actually, I mean, they could win it all. They could actually win it all if they play as well and coach as well as the hype. But I don't believe that they are as good as the hype.
I think Notre Dame will win, but it wouldn't shock me if Penn State won. But if the champion is coming from tomorrow night's game, not tonight's.
I agree, Tim. Well, as always, great stuff. I tell you, the teams that you're covering this year have been a delight with how improved they are. The Michigan Wolverines trending as a Big Ten favorite, and it is, I think that they are just getting better. And the Detroit Pistons, I mean, when you look at the growth in Cade Cunningham as a floor leader, the growth in Jaden Ivey before the injury, but you look at the veteran influence that they've had from Beasley and Harris and Hardaway. This team is just different, and the leadership from the coaching perspective from Bickerstaff, this is just a different team, and above 500 at this stage and 5 straight victories, and the way they fought back against Portland the other night, it's like, man.
I know you love stats, and this is going to blow you away. Since December 7th, OKC has the best record in the NBA. Cleveland's number 2. The Pistons have the 3rd best record in the entire NBA since the 7th of December.
That is crazy. That is crazy. But they've been fighting, they've been battling, even when the chips are down. And that Portland team came to play, and thought they were going to grab another. They beat Milwaukee the other night. Thought they had another one. Not so fast, my friend. So
what is this? The Piston Insider?
Hey man, I had to throw a little in there because I've been so excited to see how they're doing. Yeah. So, as always, Tim, great stuff, my friend. Looking forward to it next week.
All right, sounds good. Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, folks, we'll see you next time on the next edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider.